Captain Alex Morrison stood on the bridge of the UNS Discovery, watching the distant stars drift across the main display. His vessel was among humanity's finest, sleek, powerful, and equipped with the most advanced technology Earth had ever produced. For 3 months, they had been charting the Outer Rim territories, mapping new star systems, and identifying worlds that might sustain human colonies. It was routine work, yet essential, and Alex took genuine pride in performing it well. The Discovery carried a crew of 200, all volunteers who had left Earth to push the frontier of human space a little farther into the unknown. Below decks, Chief Engineer Lisa Carter adjusted the warp drive controls, her hands moving with practiced precision as she fine-tuned the system for greater efficiency. Years of studying alien engineering had taught her how other species built their faster-than-light drives, but she always managed to improve on them. Her innovations had turned the Discovery into one of the fleet's fastest ships, and every improvement bore her signature brilliance. Her fellow engineers admired her expertise and trusted her instincts completely. In his lab, Dr. Ryan Brooks, the ship's science officer and resident xenoarchaeologist, examined data from the latest planet survey. He was captivated by the ruins scattered across the dead worlds they had explored, traces of civilizations that had once flourished before mysteriously vanishing. The structures suggested those ancient species had achieved levels of advancement beyond anything seen in the current galactic era, though time had reduced their creations to dust. Meanwhile, Security Chief Ben Taylor moved through the corridors, checking in with his teams and ensuring operations ran smoothly. A veteran of Earth's military, Ben brought discipline and vigilance to his post. He knew that deep space was never without danger. Pirates, raiders, and unknown threats lurked in the shadows. Though humanity had allies across the stars, a lone exploration ship was still a tempting target, and Ben kept his crew ready for anything. At her console, Communications Officer Katie Walsh filtered through the endless stream of galactic transmissions, merchant chatter, patrol updates, and civilian traffic. It was her duty to isolate anything of importance while maintaining contact with Earth and human colonies. She sent mission reports, received updates from home, and enjoyed the sense of connection her work provided, even this far from civilization. For days, the Discovery had been tracing the same course, methodically mapping each system before moving on. Their mission would soon bring them close to the very edge of known space, where galactic treaties forbade entry beyond certain boundaries. These forbidden zones existed for good reason. Some contained destructive cosmic phenomena, while others were sacred to ancient alien cultures and protected by interstellar law. Everything changed when the navigation computer began throwing out inexplicable error messages. Lisa was summoned to the bridge as alarms blared and warning lights pulsed across the consoles. The warp drive was suffering from impossible fluctuations, and their course was veering off despite her best efforts to stabilize it. On the main screen, the star chart showed they were drifting toward a region marked with heavy warning symbols in the galactic database. Then, a massive solar flare erupted from a nearby system, hurling torrents of radiation and electromagnetic energy through space. The Discovery's shields held, but the blast triggered cascading failures across their navigation systems, interlinked malfunctions that defied every known engineering principle. Subsystems that should have been isolated began influencing one another unpredictably. The warp drive fought itself as automated safeties misread data and attempted impossible corrections. And when the chaos finally subsided and the Discovery dropped out of warp, Alex found himself staring into a sight that filled him with both awe and unease. The Discovery was engulfed by a vast red nebula that stretched endlessly in every direction. The clouds glowed from within, pulsing like the heartbeat of some colossal organism, while strange tendrils of energy rippled through the crimson haze as if alive. They had entered the Crimson Nebula, a place more legend than reality. For over 10 millennia, every known civilization had honored the same rule. No ship of any species was to enter these coordinates. The galactic treaties named it forbidden territory, and the punishment for defiance was absolute exile or destruction. Hundreds of vessels had vanished over the ages, explorers, scientists, entire fleets, and none had ever emerged again. Some called it cursed. Others believed it was a living storm that devoured all who approached. Almost at once, the discovery began to suffer inexplicable anomalies. Energy readings spiked beyond their maximum limits, defying reactor capacity. Artificial gravity wavered erratically, sending tools and crew alike drifting into the air before slamming them down again. Stranger still were the visions. Crew members started reliving memories that weren't theirs. Alex saw himself commanding soldiers in battles that had never taken place, humans wielding impossible weapons and fighting wars that spanned galaxies. Ben experienced similar flashes, humans and aliens fighting side by side using tactics that transcended conventional warfare. Lisa's hallucinations were of a different kind. She was building engines that could bend the fabric of space, powered by energies no human science could yet explain. Katie, at the comms console, detected faint signals from deeper within the nebula, patterns layered beneath the cosmic interference, almost like a call. She couldn't decipher the message, but the rhythm felt hauntingly familiar, echoing half-remembered dreams. Ryan's instruments painted an even stranger picture. Vast geometric forms hidden within the nebula's core, structures too precise to be natural, yet older than anything in the galactic records. Their confusion deepened when sensors began picking up drifting wreckage. Pieces of ships, some ancient, some recent, floated silently through the blood-red mist. They bore the insignia of every major galactic power, all scarred by the same kind of impossible energy surge that was now affecting the discovery. Determined to learn more, Dr. Ryan Brooks donned his environmental suit and led a team to analyze the debris retrieved in the shuttle bay. What he found unsettled him. The metal fragments were scorched and warped by forces he couldn't identify. Faint symbols, etched across the hull, appeared to shimmer and shift whenever he looked away. The first fragment came from a Zephyrian war cruiser, likely half a millennium old. The Zephyrians were renowned for their formidable technology, yet this vessel had been destroyed by something beyond any known weapon. Sections of its hull had transformed into translucent crystal, glowing faintly with the same crimson hue as the nebula outside. Inside what should have been crew quarters, Ryan found nothing but pulsating crystalline growths, silent, alien, and alive with a light that seemed to watch him back. He carefully collected samples, though part of him already feared what answers they might reveal. The crystals, running every test and analysis he could devise, but none of the results made sense. The crystalline samples contained faint traces of organic compounds, resembling what might once have been living tissue. Yet the molecular structure had been utterly rewritten. It was neither alive nor inert, something in between. Even more unsettling, the crystals emitted the same unique energy pattern that Katie had been detecting earlier. The horrifying implication was unavoidable. The missing crews hadn't just died, they'd been transformed into living power sources. Meanwhile, Lisa made startling findings of her own in the engine room. Contrary to expectation, the nebula's interference wasn't damaging their systems. It was enhancing them. The warp drive now operated at triple its rated efficiency, seemingly drawing power from nowhere. The ship's shields registered strength levels far beyond design limits, and the weapon arrays were showing output readings that defied every engineering principle she knew. Lisa ran diagnostic after diagnostic, searching for errors, but the data remained consistent. The discovery was growing stronger, smarter, with every hour they remained inside the nebula. Even the ship's computer systems processed information faster, and life support was functioning at unprecedented efficiency. It was as though the nebula itself were upgrading their technology, reshaping human machinery on a fundamental level. Lisa, who had devoted her life to understanding alien engineering, had never seen or imagined anything remotely like it. At her station, Katie worked feverishly to decode the incoming transmissions that now filled the comm channels. The signals were no longer random bursts of interference. They carried deliberate structure, a rhythm and syntax that grew increasingly complex. Someone or something was sending a message, and it was clearly directed at the discovery. The transmission protocols didn't match any known galactic system, yet they felt uncannily familiar. After hours of decoding through the ship's AI translator, Katie finally watched in disbelief as a line of text appeared on her screen. In flawless human English, "Welcome home, children of Tarara. You have finally returned." Her hands trembled as she reran the translation 3 separate times, but the result never changed. The message was genuine and impossibly ancient, broadcast for thousands of years. Captain Morrison convened his senior officers in the conference room. The evidence before them defied reason, yet it was undeniable. The nebula wasn't just reacting to their presence, it was recognizing them. The improvements to their systems, the human language transmission, even their survival where all others had perished, all pointed toward one conclusion none of them wanted to voice. Aloud, Ben confirmed that his security personnel were experiencing the same visions as before, memories of battles never fought, commanding fleets of unmistakably human design, but equipped with technologies centuries ahead of anything Earth had yet achieved. Ryan then presented his findings on the alien wreckage and the chilling truth he had uncovered about records the curator revealed, his expression hardening as he realized the scale of what they were seeing. The databanks contained tactical logs, fleet movements, and combat simulations from wars fought on a galactic scale. Conflicts where humanity had stood not as prey or upstarts, but as one of the most dominant forces in existence. The human fleets of that ancient era had commanded weapons that could alter the fabric of space-time, manipulate gravity wells, and erase entire star systems from reality itself. But the archives also detailed the Fall, an enemy unlike anything recorded in modern history. A shadow-born species that fed on consciousness itself, consuming civilizations until only silence remained. Humanity had fought them to extinction, but at an unbearable cost. The curator continued its explanation, projecting star maps and historical records across the chamber walls. When humanity realized their empire could not survive, they had chosen preservation over annihilation. They hid the knowledge of their past, seeded their descendants on Earth, and erased the memories of their origin. The Crimson Nebula had been designed as both a guardian and a beacon, a construct that would awaken only when humanity had reached a stage of development capable of understanding its purpose. Lisa listened in stunned silence, her mind racing as the implications took shape. Every innovation she had ever made, the intuitive leaps that had made her famous within the fleet, were not her own discoveries. They were fragments of buried ancestral knowledge resurfacing from the deep genetic memory of her species. Humanity's genius, it seemed, was not invention, but remembrance. Katie worked at her console, trying to comprehend the data flow from the station's systems. She could feel it now. The nebula itself wasn't a natural phenomenon, but an extension of the station's defenses, a living energy field interwoven with the station's core network. It had protected humanity's secrets for millennia, ensuring that only their descendants could survive its reach. Every alien ship that had dared to enter had been deconstructed, its crew transformed into crystalline energy to feed the archive's endless power requirements. Ryan's scientific curiosity was overwhelmed by awe as he explored the database further. The technology stored within those archives was beyond comprehension. Machines that could birth stars, consciousnesses that could span galaxies, and records of civilizations that had existed before time itself was measured. Humanity had not been a young race rising among the stars. They were survivors of an age so ancient that the current galactic powers were little more than children by comparison. Ben turned toward Alex, his military instincts struggling to process what the curator had said. "If this is true," he muttered, "then every treaty, every empire out there, they're living in a galaxy that belongs to us." Alex didn't answer. He stood at the center of the glowing chamber, surrounded by the echoes of humanity's forgotten empire, his reflection shimmering across the crystalline walls. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he looked up at the holographic star map displaying the countless systems that had once been ruled by humankind. The curator's calm voice echoed through the hall. "The time of waiting is over, Captain. The children of Terra have come home. The inheritance is yours, should you choose to claim it. Outside, the Discovery floated in the pulsing crimson light of the nebula. Its systems thrummed with new energy, its engines whispering with ancient power rediscovered. Humanity had not stumbled upon the greatest secret in galactic history. They had merely remembered what they had once been. Alex drew a slow breath, the weight of destiny pressing on his shoulders. "Begin data integration," he ordered quietly. "If this is truly our legacy, then it's time we learned what it means to be human again." Seed dominance. That was what had made them unique, and why they had succeeded where others failed. Humanity's greatest power had never been its weapons or its intellect, but its empathy, its ability to see others not as tools or rivals, but as partners. The curator confirmed Ryan's interpretation, explaining that the ancient archives described this unity as the harmonic accord, a coalition forged not through conquest, but through shared purpose. It was this harmony of will that had allowed their technology to resonate in ways the Devourers could not corrupt. Alex listened in silence as the debate grew more intense. Lisa pressed her point. Without the awakening, they would be hopelessly outmatched. The Devourers were returning, stronger than before, and the galaxy's current powers were blind to the danger. She argued that humanity's evolution was not just a choice, it was a duty. "If we don't awaken," she said, "we condemn every living world to the same fate as our ancestors." "We were meant to be the shield, Alex. It's time we remember why," Ben countered sharply. "And if we do awaken, we stop being human. We lose what made us worth saving in the first place. Those ancient humans, they became gods, and in the end, even gods can fall. We can't fight corruption by becoming what we fear." Katie glanced between them, her expression uncertain. "Maybe it isn't about choosing between who we were and who we are," she said quietly. "Maybe it's about remembering without losing ourselves. We don't have to repeat their mistakes. We can build something new, something better." Ryan nodded in agreement. "The archives prove that unity was our real strength. The technology helped us survive, but compassion helped us win. If we take the awakening, we have to do it together, with the others, not above them." The curator's holographic form regarded them serenely. "The decision must be unanimous," it said. "Once the process begins, the transformation will spread through your species. Every human mind will awaken the memories locked within its genetic code. You will become who you were meant to be, or remain who you have become. There can be no reversal." The chamber fell silent. Alex felt the weight of 10,000 years pressing down upon him. The voices of ancestors who had once commanded galaxies, and the echo of those who had fallen to the Devourer's endless hunger. He looked at his crew, at the people who represented the best of the humanity that was, and perhaps the last of the humanity that would ever be. Finally, he spoke. "If the Devourers are returning, then running or hiding won't save anyone. We'll need the strength of our ancestors, but not their arrogance. We awaken, but we do it our way." The curator's eyes glowed brighter, its voice resonating through the station. "Acknowledged, Captain Morrison. The restoration protocol will commence." Throughout the Discovery, systems flared with light as the station's energy converged upon them. The nebula outside began to pulse in synchronization with the ship's power core, a heartbeat of crimson and gold. Each crew member felt the awakening ripple through their minds, visions of forgotten stars, ancient alliances, and the song of countless worlds joining as one. When the light finally faded, Alex opened his eyes to a transformed reality. The ship hummed with a power that felt alive, and the stars beyond seemed sharper, more vibrant, as if reality itself had shifted to acknowledge their rebirth. The curator's voice echoed one last time. "Welcome back, Guardians of Terra. The galaxy will soon remember your name." Alex stood on the bridge, staring out into the endless void where the shadows of the Devourers waited. For the first time in 10,000 years, humanity was awake, and the war for existence was about to begin again. Empire seemed too impossible to accept. Most council representatives dismissed her warnings as propaganda or madness. Only a few of the older species, whose myths still spoke of the lost builders, began to listen. But before Katie could convince them, The transmission was cut short. The Devourers had begun targeting the communication relays around the nebula. Inside the station, the battle grew desperate. The corridors trembled as waves of dark energy rippled through the structure. Every impact felt less like a physical blow and more like reality itself trying to tear apart. Lisa rerouted power from the life support systems to the crystalline defense grid, keeping it barely stable as the Devourers pressed their assault. Beams of distorted light sliced through the blackened mist outside, each one striking with the precision of thought itself. Ben's teams fought from one section to the next, their weapons shifting and adapting as the awakening spread through their minds. They began to remember how to fight in higher dimensions, to predict enemy movements not by logic, but by instinct born of ancestral memory. Still, the cost was immense. Every fallen crew member left behind nothing, not a body, not even a trace. It was as though existence itself was erasing them from history. In the command chamber, Alex confronted the curator again. "You said this was enough," he shouted over the rumble of collapsing metal. "That this would let us fight." The curator's hologram flickered, its ancient systems straining. "You have begun to remember," it replied. "But the Devourers have evolved beyond what even your ancestors faced. To defeat them now, humanity must awaken completely." Alex hesitated, torn between preserving what they were and ensuring survival. Through the station's viewport, he watched the nebula dying, its crimson glow dissolving into the spreading blackness of corruption. "If we fully awaken," he said quietly, "will we still be human?" The curator's voice softened. "You will be more than human, but you will not be what you are now." Outside, one of the Devourer ships broke apart under a barrage of crystalline fire, its fragments dissolving into ash that shimmered like shattered glass. Lisa had pushed the ancient systems to their limits, channeling power that threatened to burn her neural implants. "Alex," she called out through the comms, "whatever you're going to do it now. We can't hold them much longer." Alex looked around the command deck, at Ben leading exhausted soldiers, at Ryan fighting to seal hull breaches with quantum barriers, at Katie struggling to reconnect with the Council. He saw not fear but determination. In that moment, he understood. Humanity's strength had never been purity, it was adaptation. They could embrace what they had been without losing who they were. "Curator," he said, standing tall amid the chaos. "Initiate full awakening, but synchronize it through me. No one ascends alone." The curator's eyes blazed with white light. Command acknowledged. Beginning total restoration. A wave of radiant energy erupted from the central core, sweeping through the station and the Discovery. Every human aboard cried out as the flood of ancestral knowledge returned. 10 millennia of science, war, art, and understanding unleashed at once. Their minds expanded, perceiving not just the battle around them, but the underlying structure of reality itself. When the light faded, the Devourer ships that had breached the nebula were gone, disintegrated into fragments of unreality. The nebula glowed once more, its color shifting from red to brilliant gold. Humanity had awakened, reborn as something ancient and new. Alex stood in the silent aftermath, breathing hard as he looked out across the stars. "This time," he said, his voice steady and resolute, "we won't just fight to survive. We'll fight to end them." The curator's final words echoed through the chamber like a prophecy. "Then the true war begins, Guardian of Terra. The galaxy will remember humanity not as what was lost, but as what returned." Seemed impossible for most civilizations to believe, and the very idea of an enemy that devoured reality itself defied comprehension. Only when Katie transmitted the technical schematics of Devourer, weapons did the galactic governments finally begin to take her warning seriously. The battle for the station reached its peak when Ben uncovered the truth about how to defeat the Devourers. They couldn't be destroyed by ordinary weapons because they weren't truly alive. The only way to end them was to free them, severing the dark technology that chained countless consumed souls together. Liberation, not annihilation, was the key. That required weapons tuned to quantum harmonic frequencies, energy that could unravel the Devourer's control over reality itself. Lisa's prototype harmonic cannon, assembled from the station's ancient archives, fired for the first time, and the universe seemed to shudder in response. The beam struck the lead Devourer vessel, not obliterating it, but disassembling it. Fragment by fragment, the monstrous construct unraveled, releasing the remnants of civilizations that had been fused into its structure. For the first time in millennia, the lost voices of entire species cried out in freedom. On the station's docking bays, beings long thought extinct began to reappear, restored to their original forms, bearing memories of their final moments before consumption. A Zephyrian warrior, consumed half a millennium ago, stood beside a crystalline philosopher whose people had vanished 3,000 years earlier. Each freed soul carried within them the preserved history of their kind. As Lisa's weapon continued its harmonic resonance, the effect spread. The Devourer fleet fractured, not in defeat, but in redemption. The battle transformed from a fight for survival into a rescue mission. Ben directed the recovery teams, while Ryan coordinated medical care for beings whose biology had been twisted by eons of forced fusion with dark matter. Katie transmitted the weapon schematics and testimony of the freed beings directly to the Galactic Council. When ancient species, long believed to be myths, spoke firsthand of the Devourer's horrors, denial was no longer possible. Across the galaxy, emergency sessions convened as every major civilization began to comprehend the scale of the approaching threat. Lisa worked with the rescued species, not as a superior sharing lost technology, but as a teacher guiding partners. She showed them how to integrate human quantum principles with their own unique sciences, creating hybrid technologies far beyond anything a single species could invent. A Zarian weaponsmith combined human harmonic energy fields with plasma focusing to forge defenses unmatched in the galaxy. A crystalline energy specialist, using human warp theory, designed propulsion systems that broke known physical limits. The once isolated station became the heart of a reborn alliance. Ships from dozens of species gathered there, each bringing knowledge, tools, and hope. Alex coordinated their efforts, rediscovering the same human gift that had once united the stars, the ability to find common ground among the utterly different. Ryan worked with xenoarchaeologists to locate other hidden vaults humanity had left behind before their fall. Each uncovered archive expanded the shared memory of the ancient alliance, restoring forgotten sciences and strengthening the galactic defense effort. Humanity's ancestors had prepared for this day far better than anyone had realized. Ben organized the formation of the Galactic Defense Force, a unified military command blending tactics and traditions from every world. No single race led it. Instead, authority and duty were shared equally. Humans served side by side with alien officers, united by the belief that survival depended not on domination, but on cooperation. When news of humanity's true origins spread, it sparked not fear, but relief. The galaxy's fragmented civilizations finally understood what they had been missing all along. Their lost protectors had returned. The myths of the first builders had been true. Katie established permanent communications between Earth and the galactic capitals, ending centuries of isolation. Trade and cultural exchange flourished, as human and alien space merged into one interconnected civilization. The once feared Crimson Nebula became a symbol of unity, a training and research academy where every species could learn together. Within its glowing clouds, new technologies were tested, new alliances forged. Lisa oversaw the design of Liberation starships, hybrid vessels built not to destroy but to free the Devourer's victims. Each ship bore the mark of many worlds, proof of what true cooperation could achieve. Ryan founded the Institute for Galactic Archaeology, dedicated to recovering the stories and sciences of extinct civilizations. Every rediscovered memory strengthened the alliance, turning tragedy into wisdom. Ben trained the new generation of defense officers, teaching not conquest, but leadership through empathy. His lessons became the foundation of a new galactic doctrine. Strength is not the power to command, it's the power to unite. The Discovery led the new fleet into the frontier, seeking out Devourer strongholds to liberate the lost before the Dark Armada arrived. Alex led these missions personally, rekindling the same spirit that had once made humanity the galaxy's bridge builders. As the vast enemy fleet emerged from the void, the galaxy no longer stood divided. For the first time in 10,000 years, every civilization, human and alien, fought side by side beneath one banner. This time, humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as partners. This time, the galaxy stood united, and this time, against the darkness that devoured worlds, they had a real chance to win.